Yeah, buddy. Let's get it, man. Let's get it. We're heading into week 12, and it's time to make some last-minute moves here on Extremely Average Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Clayton Hill, and we got a lot to go over. We're going to go over pretty much the last moves that I have made, some drops, some waiver wire ads, some last-minute trades, and then we're going to deep dive into the rest of season schedule for our players. And we'll go over the best teams to aim for and maybe teams to avoid, and then like some that we just don't even care about, right? You've got players that are so good that it doesn't matter. So before we get started, you can find me on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts now. I do some TikToking, but if you're wanting like the everyday update, you got to follow me on the Twitter. Average FF Pod is where we are at. I'll tweet throughout the games if I'm watching, if I'm not falling asleep, taking a nap. But that's where a lot of the spur of the moment action happens. There's just so much going on in the NFL. It takes me way too long to edit through all this stuff every week. So if you're not one to sit through the long episode, or if you're tired of me trying to get videos out there, Twitter is where it's at, man. All right. Where are we? Where do we stand right now? Again, I'm in 5 leagues, way too much. Very difficult to manage, but we committed for the season, so here we are. I have one team that is 7-4. That's a 98% playoff chance based on my certain league. So you may be 7-4, not have the same playoff chance. You've got to go league by league. I am using the Fantasy Pros Fantasy Playbook. Go to a league analyzer that will go through and give you your rest of season ranking, projections, everything there. So that's what I'm using for this to get these numbers. We're 7-4, 98% chance. I did have one win last week in like my 5-5 because I had 3 or 4 5-5 leagues. I had one win last week, and so now we're 6-5, and in that league, it's a 67% chance to make the playoffs. Now, this isn't to win. We only care about getting in right now. I have 3 other teams, and they are all 5-6. But this is what I'm talking about, depending on your league. So that 7-4 has a 98% chance. I have 5-6 teams, 3 different ones with 3 different projections there. One of them, I have a 34% chance of making the playoffs. So I'm 5-6 with a 34% chance to get in the door. That is a $100 league. That is my, it's a new league for me. A tough win last week. I was up by 40 points going into this game. Up by 40 points. And I should be 6-5, but I'm not. I had Rondale Moore left to go, and they had George Kittle and San Francisco's defense. And if there's any team that you start your tight end against, it is Arizona. And who did George Kittle go up against? Arizona. Rondale Moore goes out first play of the game with a -6 rushing attempt, lost 6 yards. That's a -0.6 points for me. All right, we still got a chance. But with George Kittle going over 20, defense went over 20, I lost by 1 point. No stat corrections overnight. I could have started any other player on my team. I felt like Rondale Moore was the safe play. I even had Jamal Williams sitting on the bench with 20-something points. So that one hurts a little bit. 34% chance after that. I am playing the worst team in the league this week, but I'm also playing the worst matchups. My whole roster is red. So that's going to be interesting. Next one, I have a 5-6 team. Now, this is a 10-team league, so there's a 70% chance that I make the playoffs. Another 5-6 team, 12-team league, 47% chance for the playoffs. So 3 leagues, same record. You've got a 34% chance and a 47% chance in a 12 team and a 70% chance in the 10 team league. I can't get over the loss, man, but you got to move on. You just have to. You can't go back. There's no reason to dwell on it. I'm probably out of the playoffs because of it, but we keep fighting. You have to keep fighting, keep at it. In this team specifically, I made some pretty drastic moves on the waiver wire. It's just time to get real, time to be real with myself. Rondale Moore. I do have Hollywood Brown sitting on IR. He might come back this week. Cardinals have a bye next week. It would make perfect sense. I get the need for the Cardinals to play Hollywood. I get the need for them to win. We don't really know where Kyler Murray is at. We don't know if it'll be Colt McCoy. But Rondale Moore will not be playing this week. I don't think so. And Greg Dortch, which was really great to watch Greg Dortch go for like 15 points after Rondale Moore went down and I lost by 1. It was really cool to see that same position, that same wide receiver slot have the 15 points that I would have needed to win. That's near here nor there. And I don't know if Dortch is going to play this week either. He's got something going on with his thumb. So I get that they need Hollywood to come back. I'm not expecting him to be back. And even if he is back, I don't really want to play him. But Rondale Moore is gone. Dropped him. There's no reason to wait around when I need to win this week. There's no reason for me to hold him for 2 weeks, maybe 3, depending on what's going on with him. Kadarius Toney, this was a tough one. So I'm split. Some leagues I've dropped him, and other leagues I'm waiting. I did drop him for Isaiah Pacheco. I think the Chiefs' running game has a great rest of season schedule. The wide receiver room might struggle, and it's always Juju might be back. There's just too much clouding the water there. And for that league, I just decided to pivot to Pacheco. I think there's bigger upside. He is the number 1. CEH dealing with more injuries. So I'm going in on Pacheco. Deontay Johnson, this is probably the biggest one. I finally dropped Deontay Johnson. I've been trying to trade him, can't get a trade. Look, if you can't make a deal work, you can't just stay in the mud. You have to make a move. It's been a headache. He has fallen behind George Pickens. And so the upside is no longer there. Now, if you need a floor play, the Steelers' rest of season schedule is favorable for wide receivers. You're just still stuck in a middling offense. It's rough. There's no upside. If you need a floor play, maybe hold on to him, but I don't need a floor play. My whole roster is full of floor plays. Chris Olave is half-assed been a floor play as of late. Alan Lazard, floor play. Rondale Moore, I had him on that same team. Not anymore. It was time to move on. Kyle Pitts, the headache is over. We never wish an injury on anybody, but for your fantasy roster, the headache is over. He might be back week 17 for the championship against a great matchup. I doubt it. I just don't. And even if he is, like, I don't know. I can't wait that long. We've got to make moves now. If he's trending in the right direction, maybe I pick him up in the playoffs. But I got to move on. Darrell Henderson is now the backup for Jacksonville. And he's back on the waiver wire. And I'm done. I'm over it. He's not productive. He's taking a back seat. Going to be, in and out, maybe 5 snaps. I don't expect a lot from him, and I'm moving on. Kyron Williams, on the other hand, he's on my drop. He's in my drop section here. It's Cam Akers and Kyron Williams now over in the Rams, but it is a lackluster offense. There's no upside there. They are struggling with the offensive line. Now, he is in the passing game. They'll probably be down. There's probably going to be opportunities for him to work in. But man, what is going on in LA? It's just, I don't want to really be a part of it. So you can move on from Kyron Williams if you've been holding him on the IR, waiting to see what happens. I think it's just time to move on. But you'll see once we get into the running backs here on the waiver wire, it is slim pickings. So that's up to you on what you want to do there. I just would limit your expectations. You're going to need to be in a PPR league for this to even be somewhat of a decent play for you here. Those were my big drops. So Deontay Johnson, probably the biggest one out there. You just got to have a reality check. I did drop him straight up for George Pickens, though. So again, the playoff schedule is great, and I'm going to talk about George Pickens a little bit more. On the waiver wire, quarterback, if Deshaun Watson is still out there, now's your time. It might be too late. That's about the only good one that I am seeing out there, one with at least potential. Everything else, I would recommend that you just stream week to week. If you're in one of those positions with a Russell Wilson or something, if you've got a Geno Smith's a great play this week, but that's going to have to be a stream week to week outside of Deshaun Watson. Running backs on the waiver wire, we just talked about Kyron Williams. It's not pretty. We don't have pretty running backs. This is really, really thin. Somebody probably picked up Latavius Murray. If he's still out there for whatever reason, Broncos have a great rest of season schedule, and he's the last man standing. Not a bad play. I put in a bid for him. I think it was $16, 16 fab, and was outbid for 20 fab. And I'm okay with that. I like to have a little bit of change going into the playoffs in case something big happens. I need to make a move. And there's some people who haven't spent any fab all year. So I got about 40 something left in there. But outside of that, you're looking at Kyron Williams, Chuba Hubbard, Dontre Hilliard, backup for Tennessee Titans. And Gus Edwards. This is where we're at. I don't really want to be a part of the running back room in Baltimore. It's going to be a committee. I don't know if Gus Edwards is going to stay healthy. Hilliard is a handcuff only. However, Titans have a great playoff schedule, and Chuba's the same way. Chuba, he's the same thing. If anything were to happen to the number one dude, who I don't even remember, Dante Foreman, whoever it is out there, I don't even remember because they barely run any plays over there in Carolina. It's not pretty at all for running backs. So your best bet is probably to try to trade to get something of any value. Wide receivers on the waiver wire. Wide receivers, we've got a little bit more wiggle room. It's been like that all season, and that's typically how it goes. Treylon Burks had a great game last week. It is a tough matchup this week, but the talent is there. Can he stay healthy, and how much passing work is he really going to get? Those are the questions, but if you're looking for a stash with big upside, I think Treylon Burks can be that guy for you. Tennessee wants to run the ball, but when they do throw it, he's probably going to be the clear number one. Brandon Cooks has been on my waiver wire, and I keep leaving him there. I just don't know what's going on in Houston. There might be a quarterback change there if there hasn't been already. Even if there is, how much are they going to pass? Just not a great offense to be a part of. But, I mean, we're getting toward the end of the season. I mean, it's definitely worth. He's got a fantastic rest of the season schedule. Might be worth the stash. Donovan Peoples-Jones has been talked about for the last few weeks. Still out there on the waiver wire. Deshaun Watson coming in should get an uptick. These aren't players that are going to win you a championship here, but they're players like Treylon Burks, boomer bust. If you need an upside, hit him up. Brandon Cooks, floor play. Especially if they change quarterbacks, he might get an uptick too, might have a better relationship. I don't know. That's a wait and see. Donovan Peoples-Jones, floor play. Zay Jones has talked about kind of in the middle of the season. We're back. He's got for the next few games, Baltimore, Detroit, Tennessee. Great matchups these next few weeks. So if you need a floor play for there with a potential upside, if he gets in the end zone, I think Zay Jones is probably one of the favorable ones out there on the waiver wire. Jameson Williams, rookie for the Lions, have yet to see him. They've won the last 3 games. It's trending upwards that we probably do see him. There's been some chatter this week about him getting on the field, and he's excited for it. But how do they work him in to the offense? He probably doesn't jump right in, and we may not even see him at all. Really, I think this week depends. It depends if they can get a win this week, which would be tough. But if they can go out and get a win, we might be looking at Jameson Williams coming back, and I think that's a great stash as well. I kind of put him with like a Treylon Burks. So those are your guys they have the potential upside. The one that I'm excited about that I went out and got was George Pickens. Now, I think last week I said I don't know about George Pickens. It's a straight-up dart throw. George Pickens is the clear number 1 in this offense. Not a fantastic, high-explosive offense to be a part of, but George Pickens is the favorite target. George Pickens is also extremely talented. He had that one catch where he had a full stretch. I tweeted it yesterday. He's fully stretched out, catches it with one hand, Odell Beckham Jr. style. The talent is there. He is explosive. He is the number 1 target. The rest of season schedule is absolutely fantastic. One of the best for receivers. The defense is getting better. You've got Watt coming back, and so the defense is better. The running game looked really good last week. Things are trending up for this offense. The rookies get better in the second half. So if the quarterback play can step up, the running game is looking good. It's going to open up big plays down the field, and the defense doing well just helps everything too. So the stars are kind of aligning for George Pickens. He's probably my number 1 pick up on the waiver wire, and probably my number 1 trade for target, because I think you can still get him on the cheap right now. He does have a tough matchup this week, but it is all systems go after this week. So if you can get out and get him, if your trades are still open, this is like the last week. I think this week and next week are my last chances, depending on my league that I'm looking at. One league's already done, but if you can go out and get George Pickens, I think this is a guy who could have great upside, and this is a sneaky one where if you need a wide receiver that could boom, I don't want to say he's a league winner, but man, everything else is there. Everything else is there if they can just get it together. So we'll see. That's the one I'm most excited about. George Pickens coming from a no clue dart throw note last week to all in this week. Now's the time to get him. Tight ends. Woof. It's not great. I have Greg Dulcich in one of my leagues that I had Kyle Pitts in, but he hasn't been the guy that we really thought that he would be, even with Jerry Jeudy missing time, even with the running backs being banged up or being by committee, whatever it is over there. That offense is just the worst. And it's really tough. So maybe an Evan Ingram. I do like Foster Moreau this week. The other person that I have is Trey McBride. Now, Trey McBride is a rookie taking over for Zach Ertz. Maybe. He's in Arizona. He's a tight end in Arizona, and he's now like the number 1 tight end. They're going through some injuries out there. Again, no Dortch, no Rondale, at least practicing right now. Hollywood, questionable return. So it's kind of DeAndre Hopkins and who else? Again, he is a rookie. Tight ends take time to develop. There's not been a top tight end play from a rookie in fantasy football like ever. I heard that from fantasy footballers today. I'm stealing it straight from them. But he was like the number 1 tight end in college last year. The talent is there. It's just how quickly can he develop? It's going to be his 3rd game. That's a dart throw. But more so than that, your tight ends are probably something that you're going to stream every week. If you're a Kyle Pitts guy, you can't go out and get a David Njoku or Cole Kmet, something like that, then you're probably just going to be streaming week to week. Same thing with the defense. That wraps up the waiver wire there. Let's get into trades. Who am I looking to trade for? Jeff Wilson Jr. is still on my list. It is going to be tough. It's going to be pricey. He's coming out and he's going to play Houston this week. Mostert is already limited in practices with the knee, and so he's already dealing with stuff. Jeff Wilson has an opportunity to completely take over this backfield. It is a great matchup this week. If you can get him, but you're probably going to have to pay for it. I just think that price continues to go up every week, though, so now is the time. If you're going to pay now. Dameon Pierce is another one that I would probably try to target. Fantasy managers are a little frustrated. I am one of them. He went out and got me poop last week. I think my PPR is at least 3.7, but I think it was like a 1.7, something like that in standard. It is a rough offense. We just went over that, but he runs strong. He's a strong rookie running back. He is their offense. It is a volume play. If you can get him on the cheap, that's a great deal right there. So Jeff Wilson, you'll probably have to pay for. Dameon Pierce, I think his value has gone down, and you might be able to capitalize. People who are a little iffy about the offense as a whole. Wide receivers, we just talked about George Pickens. He's a top option. The defense is getting better. The run game looks good, and he's going to be your boom play there. Gabe Davis is still out there. He's going to get 4 or 5 targets a game, but they're big ones. And so you've got to play the right matchups. But if you're looking for a ceiling play, Gabe Davis is a good one. Chris Godwin, the touchdowns have come. They had a bye week last week, so last week was probably the ideal time to get him. If you can still get him, Tom Brady's throwing 70 times a game. And Fournette looks to be a little banged up. They did have a bye week. We'll see if he comes back. But Rachaad White has kind of taken over as a starter before going into the bye week. Bye weeks are usually when they get their rookies on track. Rachaad White might be the starter this week. But there's just the wide receivers seem to be the consistent, which is crazy because they have been inconsistent in their health and everything, but Godwin looks to be healthy. He looks to be a good play going forward. Who am I trading away? I might be trading Joe Mixon away if I have Joe Mixon. I might be trying to capitalize on that. He's not playing this week. I think it's a concussion thing. Terrible matchup anyway. That's fine. He has an okay playoff schedule. But if you want to go out and get somebody else, I don't blame you there. Not too many notes. I'm iffy on it. If you want to trade up, package them together and trade up, go for it. If you want to hold on to them, go for it. Singletary, it's theoretically a good matchup this week against Detroit, but Detroit has been pretty stingent on the run. Their run defense has stepped up, and it's their secondary where they're vulnerable. So I think that the Bills get it done through the air. I think they get it done fairly easily through the air, and I don't think that you see much of Singletary in the fourth quarter. He's been up and down, had some really good games as of late. So if you're relying on Singletary, then I would be looking to move away. If he is one of your flex options and you have somebody else that you can go to, he might be worth a hold. Depending on what he is for you, I would highly consider capitalizing on the two couple good games and seeing if you can get somebody else. Alvin Kamara. I've been throwing him in some trades. I've been throwing him out there. That's my number one overall pick. Well, it's not really overall. It's overall for me. He's been my number one, but he has like a great playoff schedule. I think like 15, 16, and 17. Really, really good playoff schedule. But if you're over it, I mean, New Orleans is just, I think it's Chris Olave on New Orleans, and it sounds crazy because we've seen Alvin do so well. We've seen him be explosive. He has been this entire backfield, which is so hard to find in the NFL right now. So I get if you want to hold on to him because of that playoff schedule. If you can, do it. He's still ranked pretty high rest of season schedule. That offense is tough. They're dealing with offensive line issues. It really depends on the quarterback play, but Jarvis Landry coming back should open up things for Chris Olave. If they get the air game going, then they should be able to get the ground game going as well. I am stashing him if I can to get to the playoffs, but I have thrown him out there in a couple trades. I don't even remember what they were. DeAndre Swift is another one that I've thrown out there too, and I'm probably packaged those two together. That's my number one, number two. I probably went Kamara and Swift for Derrick Henry. I think that's exactly what I did actually. Threw out Kamara and Swift for Derrick Henry. It'll probably get rejected, but that's fine. Both of them have great playoff schedules. Swift, we just don't know if he's going to be healthy. They said he may not be healthy 100% rest of season, but he does have Jacksonville coming up, Minnesota, who's been susceptible to the run, especially in the red zone. Jets are a little tough, but then you have Carolina and Chicago. So good schedule for Swift coming up, but that's what I am doing. I'm packaging Kamara and Swift, and I'm trying to go get like a Derrick Henry. I'm not selling down on these. The playoff schedule's too good. The upside is still there. And if Swift gets healthy through the rest of the season, he's got a great schedule. So that covers my ads, my drops, the waivers, the trades. If you are trading, got to make some last minute moves. Go out there, look at the teams who are out of the playoffs. Maybe they're in last at the bottom of the league. See if you can get somebody off of them. See if somebody's trying to absolutely save their season and catch them in a desperation play. It hardly ever works. You have to pretty much lose in a trade to make a trade. That's kind of what I've found. But if you can target somebody who's desperate, target somebody who maybe just want to have fun at this point, and maybe Alvin Kamara is their favorite player. Maybe DeAndre Swift is their favorite player. You never know, but target the people who are, if not completely out of the playoffs, almost out of the playoffs. That's the way to do it. So going after all that, now we'll look at, I'm just going to go over teams with the best and the worst playoff schedule. This will help you for who you're targeting, help you for who you're going to pick up. This is what we need to be looking at because it is right around the corner. So the best, I think Sports Illustrated for this. I went to Sports Illustrated, best schedule for quarterbacks, the ones that stood out to me that you can probably get that are still out there. Jimmy Garoppolo, who had a great game. If he's still out there, that'd be a good stash there. He's going to be a good floor play. And then we finally saw some ceiling. It was kind of just a middle of the road play there, but he's surrounded by great players, has a great schedule. Kenny Pickett, risky business. But again, schedule for the rest of the season, if he gets it together, real juicy. Deshaun Watson, supposed to come back next week. So you got to get him this week. You can't let him sit. It's going to be, people will probably be fighting for him next week once they see what's going on. Buzz starts happening. The news starts picking up. You got to get him this week if he's still out there. Worst quarterback schedules. These are ones that people might be playing right now, and it might be a little alarming. Ryan Tannehill. So we just talked about Treylon Burks, possible upside, bad schedule, might be rough. Trevor Lawrence has a terrible playoff schedule. Tua has a terrible playoff schedule. Now, with all the weapons that Miami has, I'm probably not worried about Tua. I do have him in one league, but he's my backup to either Jalen Hurts or Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson. He's a backup for one of them, so I'm not worried about Tua. Kirk Cousins, who we saw sitting on the grass most of last week. He has a bad playoff schedule. Justin Fields has a bad playoff schedule, and now he says he's dealing with a separated shoulder, even though it's not his throwing shoulder, but that is something to be aware of. And Kyler Murray, who's also dealing with injury, he has a pretty rough schedule moving forward. Something to consider. So if you can go out, if you have one of those and you can go out and get a Garoppolo, maybe just hold on to a Kenny Pickett to see what happens, or go grab Deshaun Watson. I absolutely would. Running backs with the best playoff schedule. The Jets, Michael Carter is in play. That not necessarily the other guy, Robinson, who's fallen off the face of the earth. But the Jets have a really good schedule. The Saints, like I mentioned, Alvin Kamara having a good schedule. The Chiefs, I dropped Kadarius Toney for Isaiah Pacheco because the running schedule looks good. The passing schedule looks tough, and it's a clouded receiver room. So Isaiah Pacheco. The Ravens have a really good rest of schedule, but I don't think I really want to get involved in there. I do have Gus Edwards on one or two teams. Definitely one, but that is a wait and see. I'm not relying on any Ravens running back. The Lions, just talked about Swift. Lions have a really good rest of season schedule. The Titans, that's why Hilliard is... If you have a roster spot to stash somebody, Hilliard might be a good stash. Running backs are very thin, especially out there on the waiver wire. If you can't get a trade done, anything happens to Derrick Henry, the team wants to run, and Hilliard's found the end zone more in the passing game, but it's a good schedule for the run game for the Titans. It's a bad schedule for the receivers for the Titans. Steelers just have overall a really good rest of season schedule. Najee Harris has been playing well. Jaylen Warren got banged up. So Warren is probably the stash there. They wanted to get him more work anyway. You're probably not getting... I mean, you might be able to go out and get Najee. He looked good last week. People might be wanting to sell him. Najee's one I should have brought up. That might be one that you want to go get, especially if Warren is out there on the waiver wire and you can pick up Najee and then just stash Warren underneath him. That's a good play. 49ers have a really good schedule. If you can go out and get Elijah Mitchell, I have Christian McCaffrey in one of my leagues. Guy's not giving up Elijah Mitchell. I can't get a trade for him, but Elijah Mitchell might be a good stash as well. The Rams, who we really want nothing to do with, talked about Kyron Williams earlier. Do with that what you want. Broncos have a really good rest of season schedule. Latavius Murray is the only one back there, but it is the Broncos, and they are bad. Bucks have a good schedule. Might be able to get Leonard Fournette. He was a little banged up. Rashad White is probably not out there anymore, but if you can get one of those two, Bucks have a really good schedule upcoming. The worst running back schedule, the Raiders, but it's Josh Jacobs. He's been tearing it up. The offense really hasn't, but it might be tough going forward. He's good enough, though. You're going to start him. Bengals have a really bad schedule. That Joe Mixon we were talking about before, yeah, it's just not going to get any better. I'm not itching to get out there and get Joe Mixon or Samaje Perine. Not really running out there to get that. The Browns have a really tough schedule. I just traded Kareem Hunt straight up for David Njoku. Kind of sounds wild, and I know Njoku's been banged up, but I've been trying to move away from Hunt. And in that league, I have Alvin Kamara, Dameon Pierce, Jamal Williams, and DeAndre Swift already. So I was never really going to start Kareem Hunt. So I pivoted off of him and got a deal done for David Njoku. Giants have a tough schedule, but you're still starting Nick Chubb. Like, you're not going to not start Nick Chubb. Same thing with the Giants. You're not benching Saquon Barkley. Chargers have a tough schedule. You're not benching Eckler. He's been absolutely awesome. Seahawks, rough schedule. You're not benching Kenneth Walker. Packers, tough schedule. You're not benching Aaron Jones. Dolphins, tough schedule. Jeff Wilson is in my flex play. I have Devin Singletary and Jeff Wilson in that league. Jeff Wilson's in a flex play, so I don't care that the Dolphins have a rough remaining schedule for running backs. This week is beautiful, and it's all systems go for Jeff Wilson this week. The Cardinals have a tough playoff schedule. James Conner's back there solo, though. And the rest of the team seems to be a little banged up. Based on volume, we might be able to get away with that one. Commanders, rough schedule. Brian Robinson didn't really even show up last week. I mean, it's Antonio Gibson. That's the one that you want in that offense. But they do have a really, really tough schedule coming up, so hard to trust the Commanders. Wide receivers, best schedule, Texans. We talked about Brandon Cooks. I don't really know what's going on there, man. I am going to sit back and watch without worrying about it. That's where I'm at. I don't want any part of it. Ravens have a really good rest of season schedule for receivers. I think that speaks more to Lamar Jackson than any actual receiver. Not really taking a chance on Devin Duvernay or the other guy that's starting to creep up in there. No, it's good for Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. I don't know how the tight end schedule looks rest of season for Baltimore, but on the receiving end, it's looking pretty good. Panthers, doesn't matter. Don't care. No DJ Moore. No. Terrence Marshall, no. We're done. I'm done with it. Steelers, we talked about. If you want to hold on to Deontay Johnson as a floor play, go for it. My pick is George Pickens. So let's get it. Hopefully that pays off. Browns have a really good rest of season schedule. They're about to get a better quarterback as well. So Amari Cooper would be a good target before that happens. He's been playing really well. Donovan Peoples-Jones probably out there on your waiver wire. Worth looking at. Cowboys, great rest of schedule. Wow. Cowboys have a good rest of season schedule. There it is. 4 wide receivers. I think that's really just for CeeDee Lamb. Not big on Michael Gallup and Dalton Schultz. It's CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz on that offense. Broncos have a really good rest of season schedule. I just picked up Jerry Jeudy. He was out there on the waiver wire. I know he's banged up. He had to be carted off the field. It looked terrible. Russell Wilson is terrible, but the strength of schedule, I just couldn't get past it. I had a roster spot to do it. It was free. And we'll see what happens there. But it's even Cortland Sutton. It's really hard to trust. Saints, Chris Olave, to the moon, baby. Let's get it done. Again, with Jarvis Landry coming back, that should only be better for him. Packers have a really good rest of season schedule. If you're able to get Christian Watson, let's go. I have Christian Watson and Allen Lazard in the same team in the same league. That is going to be a headache. I'm playing a wait and see kind of approach. I already expect Lazard to be more favored with the targets, but Christian Watson is the big play. So if I need a floor, I'm going with Lazard. If I need the upside, I'm going with Watson. That's how I'm viewing that wide receiver room going forward. The Jets have a really good wide receiver schedule rest of season. So Jets are both on the ground and through the air, have a really good schedule coming up. That's really just Garrett Wilson. Yes, because Zach Wilson apparently is not starting anymore. Garrett Wilson is a freak athlete. So if there's anyone he benefits, he might be somebody that you go out and trade for as well. Worst receiving schedule for the rest of the year. Chiefs, bad. It's already muddy. Hold Kadarius Toney if you want. Let go of him if you want. It's not going to get... It's either Kelsey or Juju. I see it that way going forward. Toney is... We just got to see what's going on with Toney before I can make a decision on that. Vikings have a bad one, but it's Justin Jefferson. You don't care. Adam Thielen, though, that's rough. Rams, bad schedule, bad quarterback, bad offensive line, bad team. Done. Dolphins. So Dolphins have a tough one on the ground and through the air, but so many playmakers in there, you don't care. Tyreek Hill, you're still starting. Jalen Waddle, you're still starting. It doesn't matter. They're good. Bengals, tough schedule coming up, but T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, thumbs up. Tyler Boyd, thumbs down. Especially if Jamar Chase comes through this week, Tyler Boyd will disintegrate into nothing, even though he's had 2 monster games on there. I have Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd in the same league. I am probably holding Tyler Boyd in case Jamar Chase, an injury happens. But even without Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd did not really produce like we thought that he would. Jags, Christian Kirk, poor Christian Kirk, and Trevor Lawrence, man, it's really, really tough. It's a volume play, and you're in a PPR, hold on to Christian Kirk. Bills have a tough one, but it's Stephon Diggs. This is more to like a Gabe Davis. Really got to pay attention to that schedule, and it's going to be a spot start probably for Gabe Davis, which is what he's been anyway. He's a boomer bust. Titans, rough. Commanders, rough. Scary Terry McLaurin is about the only one. Just because it's Taylor Heineke, he's probably the only one that I would be interested in. And then the Lions have a really tough schedule coming up in the receivers. So Jameson Williams, maybe not coming back. If he does come back, it's going to be tough. But when you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, you get both of them on the field. I think that they overcome the matchups. They like big plays. In Detroit, they've got a great offensive line, so Jared Goff has all the time to throw. I'm still in on Jameson Williams. If he does come back to play, the talent is there. That's it. Not going over tight ends or defenses. Those are going to be ones that you stream week to week. There's not going to be anything consistent unless you have Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Mark Andrews, Dalton Schultz. Those are going to be the guys that you just hold on to. Everything else, I'm looking to stream every week, even with a David Njoku. Not sure what the injury is going to be. What's going on there. Cole Kmet, I'll be probably looking. Evan Ingram, I'll probably be looking. Those are ones where if I have another roster spot that I can cycle through, I'll hold those guys and then see if I can stream somebody else as we go through the playoffs. Same thing with defense. Streaming those as we go. I'm holding on to the Jets in a lot of leagues. I'm holding on to Philly in a lot of leagues. Both of them, I believe, are done with their buys. I believe. Not sure about the Jets. But it's at that point, I'm just trying to find a good Broncos defense has been out there. I'm trying to find a good defense that I can just hold for the rest of the way. But the best thing to do is going to be look week to week and see what the matchups are. That's it. That's what we got. Those are your matchups. Quarterbacks, running backs, receivers. We went over some trade for targets, who to drop, making big decisions. It's time to get wild. The Deontay Johnson one, I mean, it finally just caught up to me. I'm still really not over it. You watch it just disintegrate all year, and then you just finally have to say, especially when I lost that game last week, I just have to go out and I have to dump him and just find the better option. Tools that you can use. Just a reminder, you can look at Fantasy Footballers had a primer episode last week if you're looking for a podcast to listen to, and they kind of went over some of these same things. Fantasy Pros is another one I go to. PFF, PFT, Sports Illustrated, CBS, Yahoo. You can find a lot of good information on there. But if you're down to get that fantasy playbook from Fantasy Pros, you can sync your league. You might get some free weeks there. It's got good for 1 year, so you can use it for the draft next year too. It's a pop-up thing that happens in the draft. Tells you percentage of who they would take if they were you. Really helpful. Also, look in your apps, whatever you're using. See if you can go to those future weeks. Week 14 is the next big bye week, so you definitely need to be looking at that. That's like the last chance to get into the playoffs. That is a really big week. Be looking ahead to see who's on bye. You can look at your lineups every week for future weeks. You need to be doing that. Absolutely. I know fantasy football is a lot to manage week to week, but we need to be doing it for like the next 2 or 3 weeks. We need to be looking ahead and looking to block opponents. If you have anybody on the other side that is injured, maybe going and grabbing that backup if you have a roster spot to do it, trying to block your opponents from making moves so that they can win, and that helps you win, and that's what we're here for. We'll play dirty. It's fine. We're here to win, baby. Hopefully you guys get a win this week. You can get a week this week. Everybody's going to get a week this week, but hopefully you get a win this week. Be looking ahead. Be looking to stash those players. Go out and get, like I said, George Pickens is my number one. Donovan Peoples-Jones is up there too. Damian Pierce you can get out there and get. If you can hold Alvin Kamara, hold him. DeAndre Swift. We went and talked through it all. Leonard Fournette might be one that you want to go out and trade for. Great rest of season schedule. Look at your matchups. Look at those lineups. Take care of what you need to take care of. All right. Waivers. Check the deadlines. Trades. Check the deadlines. Make some moves, baby. It's time to get crazy here on Extremely Average Fantasy Football Podcast with your host, Clayton Hill. Find me on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, TikTok, Apple Podcast, on the Twitter, wherever you watch, wherever you listen, wherever you read. You can find me. Good luck this week. Let's get ready for playoffs, y'all. Peace.